President Obama also spoke to Lara Logan Wednesday afternoon, phone calling her to make sure she was okay. The barbaric attack she suffered came as a shock to most of us, but not necessarily to the women in Egypt. There was a 2008 survey that really illuminates some major problems for Egyptian women. This was by the Egyptian Center for Women's Rights. 83% of Egyptian women in Cairo and 98% of foreign women in Cairo said they had been harassed at one time or another, and 62% of men in Cairo actually admitted to harassing women as well. And a lot of people are questioning, in light of what happened to Logan, will we hear more now about these harassments and assaults against women in Egypt and other Arab countries, and will behaviors begin to change? Joining us once again this morning is Mona Eltahawy, activist and columnist on Arab and Muslim issues, and you tweet extensively. I mean, thousands and thousands of tweets, and your Twitter feed actually became almost a forum for this discussion in the wake of the horrific attack on Lara Logan. How did that come about?
You know, it was my way of kind of condemning unequivocally what happened to Lara and giving Egyptians also a forum to show how disgusted and saddened we were by her attack on such a happy day when Hosni Mubarak finally stepped down. But also for me as a woman and as a journalist, and you will know this, Kieran, that has been groped and harassed in various places, and also as a woman who lives in the US who knows that there's a rape here every 2 minutes. So I wanted to open it up to women in Egypt who face sexual harassment and assault, but women here in the US. And I heard from women from all over the world and men who actually very generously and courageously shared their own experience with sexual assault and harassment. So it was very cleansing, and it was very, it helped us all open up and share experience at a very difficult time.
The number, when you look at this study, and people ask that, somewhere between 80 and 90% of women in Cairo, is that just Cairo, or were they just being more honest? Is this far more commonplace than we think?
It's far more commonplace in Cairo than many people have thought. I can't speak for the rest of Egypt because I've spent most of my life in Egypt in Cairo, but I think what was significant about that survey was that it gave Egyptian women in 2008 finally a chance to speak out against all these forces that had tried to silence them and shame them into not talking about this.
But is this a cultural, is this a cultural thing? Why does 62% of men say, yes, I've harassed women, and why do 80-some% of women say they've been harassed? I
think it's what it is what's happened to Egypt, what's changed Egypt over the past few decades, because in my parents' generation, this was not something that they heard of or complained of, and when they saw someone being attacked, they would help them. What happened in Egypt over the past few decades was this increasing conservatism, where the Mubarak regime would use this very conservative form of the religion of Islam, basically, to fight its opponents, and everything became so conservative that women paid the biggest price. So when women were harassed, when I was groped in the street and I would fight back and hit, people would just ignore it. But what happened with Lara's attack was that 20 Egyptian women rescued her from her attackers. That says to me that what happened in Tahrir was that women found their voice and were able to speak out and say, I'm a revolutionary and this has got to change. And remember, Tahrir Square opened on that day to everybody. So we don't know who attacked Lara. I think she's very courageous in coming out and saying that she was sexually assaulted and giving women a chance to speak. But I would like to know who her attackers were so that we can bring them to justice, but also that, you know, she was targeted by the military in Egypt. She was targeted by the regime. Who was it who attacked her? But having said that, I'm very encouraged that Egyptian women rescued her, because that says to me that this is a change in Egypt. I have women friends who have groups that fight against harassment. There's a great project called Harass Map, where women are encouraged, because of these horrific figures, women are encouraged to call up or send a text message or a tweet and say, I was groped or assaulted here. And then on a map...
We're seeing a picture of it right now. So this is really just to put some sunshine on this issue.
Exactly.
Is this a bigger problem in Egypt and in the Arab world than in other parts of the world?
No, I think it's bigger in that people haven't been talking about it for such a long time, and women have been shamed into silence. You know, in the way that here, rape victims in the 70s would always be asked, what were you wearing? How many boyfriends have you had? In Egypt, it was, you know, what were you wearing? You must have asked for this groping. And the majority of Egyptian women wear headscarves. So it has nothing to do with dress.
That is interesting that you brought this up, because speaking of that, we have some pictures at Cairo University that tell a very interesting thing. These are yearbook pictures from Cairo University, and you just mentioned that sea change that happened. This is 1978 right there. In the picture, you see most of the women in Western dress. Let's fast forward to 1995. You see more women wearing headscarves when we put up the 1995 yearbook photo at Cairo University. And then let's go to 2004, where the majority of women in the picture in 2004 are wearing headscarves. Now, you say this is by choice, but a safety measure as well. What does this say about the comfort level that women feel in terms of being at a university and also being interacting on a daily basis with men.
Well, it says to me Egypt has changed a lot. I wouldn't even say that they used to wear Western clothes in the 70s, because in the 50s and 60s, Egyptian women felt very Egyptian, dressed the way they were. But what has happened is this tremendous pressure on women. As I said, this growing conservatism that women paid the price for. I used to wear a headscarf out of choice. I chose to take it off. My mother and my sister, both with PhDs, well, my sister's working on her PhD, choose to wear it. So women definitely do choose to wear headscarves. But we reached a stage in Egypt before the revolution where there was so much social pressure. Part of that social pressure was, if you are assaulted or groped, it's somehow your fault, and women were silenced. What I'm hearing from women who were in Tahrir was, we defied our families to spend the night outside in Tahrir every night.
In mixed company.
Exactly. With men, this is completely against what most Egyptian families experience. So women, it's like a reawakening and a rediscovering of their voice, and they're saying, this has got to change. We demand an active role. And I think this is one of the constructive things that we can take out of this horrific news, that Egyptian women are demanding an equal say in Egypt, as they should have, because they helped this revolution.
Amazing. Well, Mona, it's great to get your take, as always. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me, Kieran.
TJ?